Welcome to the new year, everyone. How are we all doing?
Yeah,
Good.
we're good. Ready to
Pumped.
attack a new year.
Pumped. Yeah.
And what is the training agenda? It's always one of those things that every Christmas I sit back, I sit down to reflect and think, what am I going to achieve this year physically in the gym, with my physique, etc. Have you guys done the same this year, or anything different coming up? What have you guys got planned for the year? And then I'll tell you mine.
For me personally, I'm probably in the minority that isn't jumping on a new fitness regime. It's just the same again for me. Started an investment phase January 2020. So 12 months in, I'm going to do at least another 12 months. I think probably another 18 months. So nothing changed. Still doing the same training program. Food's the same. So yeah, just putting the work in and keeping things ticking over.
Yeah. I'm relatively similar in just chasing my own goals that I've been chasing for the last couple of years. Again, a lot of gymnastics-based skills. Iron cross still on the cards. Hopefully, I'll get that before I die. Just other calisthenics-based skills. Got some other mobility goals in the mix as well. But again, these are just. I don't have any set date on when to hit them. I don't care when they occur. But it would be cool to hit an iron cross on like Easter, so I can, hang from a cross on Easter Sunday. That would be pretty cool. But but other than that, nothing. Just keep doing my thing. Each day's the same. Training, really getting into my cycling now. Now I've got like a power meter that tells me how hard I'm actually working, which is really, really cool. So who knows, might enter the Tour de France in a couple of years. Who knows? But yeah, just continuing training, doing my thing, and just taking it day by day, week by week, and whatever unfolds.
You're on a roll. When you said the Easter thing, I got a bit thrown. I was like, what?
Yeah. Or Christmas. That would be pretty cool. But, yeah, more fitting on Easter. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm pretty much saying it's the first time. So every year I usually write, I want to be X body weight, I want to be X% body fat, and I want to hit these goals. And every year I never really forget any of them because either an injury happens or something else goes on.
Still shooting for that 100 kilos, 5% body fat.
Yeah.
Have you tried grapefruit juice?
I've not tried. I didn't try the grapefruit oil yet. So this year it's just like my goal is just really to just try and be injury free and just show up as many times as I can and just keep training hard. I think one thing I've realized is if I can string together those sessions where you're just in the flow of it, you're not in a rush, those sorts of things. Because recently I found I'm like running to the gym, training for 30 minutes and running back, and it's just like you can get into it, and by the time you get into it, you've got to leave because you've got something on straight after. So ideally, just want to set my day up a bit better for that to get a full hour without rushing. It's usually fine Thursday, Friday. It's usually the Monday and Tuesday sessions that struggle. And really just to be injury free, which is, I know it's like one of those things that never really happens, but when we say injury free, more just the ability to do the things that I like to do.
Yeah.
So
it's a big thing. Yeah. You don't realize how lucky you are until you are injured. Just like health. You don't realize how good you've got it until you're really sick.
Yeah. I mean, I've had this weird thing in my ears recently where I've got this constant ringing in my ears, and doctors give me some drops, but to be honest, it's making it worse, if anything. And I'm not really sure what to do. So I'm going to have a follow-up appointment. But recently I've been just appreciating hearing a lot. Honestly, like right now, the volume on the laptop is usually at 40 to 45. It's at 70 right now. And it says like high volume will affect hearing loss because I can't hear as well as I normally can. And every time I look at, so I asked an audiologist, I was like, what do you think's going on? She's like, you're under more stress than normal or recently. Like, is that the answer to everything? Is stress the answer
I
to
know.
everything?
It's such a cop out. Yeah, such a cop out. We're all stressed. That's not helpful.
So Yeah, that's definitely similar with injuries. Really, it's like until you get your first one, you don't appreciate your body until after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you get sick, even if it's just a cold or something, you just crave this feeling normal again. But then as soon as you're back to normal, you just don't appreciate it, do you? It just goes back to just what you expect.
Yeah. On that, I actually think it's a really good sign. This is for anyone listening. If you do get sick and you just really start missing the gym and you really start missing just activity in general, I think you're onto a good thing there. I would say that is when someone's 3S's are really in place. You know what I mean? Where they either when they really missed it, when they can't do it, or when life gets really, really tough and they can still do it. They still make time to do it. They still make sure they implement those things. I think those two factors are a big telltale sign if someone is on the right path to like a big identity shift, in my opinion.
And I know we have that identity already as people who prioritize health and fitness. But even like, for example, earlier this week, there was a day where I was on, when you just wake up and you're like, I don't think I should train today. And then you get, your time to train is, you're probably better off taking a day off, right? And I was getting to the point of training and I was like, oh, now I'm like limited on time. I've got literally an hour to get to the gym and back. And this was before me with you, Ed. Remember on Monday? We finished it. I was like something else to do. I was like, shit, I got to be back in an hour, to and from the hour. And I was like, I'm just going to leave. Then I thought, let me just go and do something. I ran to the gym. I just paired 2 exercises and just went back and forth for as long as I had in the gym, and then ran back. And I was like, you know what? I feel really good for that. I even set a PR.
You always do, man.
I even set a Bulgarian split squat PR.
Yeah. It's the best. Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, like, it's probably the best time to train. When you feel like crap, the best thing to do to make yourself feel better is actually just go and train. It's a complete paradox, isn't it?
Hit. Yeah, it's a huge endorphin hit. Yeah, I also say that to people who think they're tired all the time, they're too tired to train. You're not. You won't be tired if you do train. You'll be able to give more to your day, to your work, to your family if you take the time to work and do a bit of vigorous activity. It's the best way to get your heart rate up, get your brain cranking, and go from there.
And so on some of those days when you feel a bit crap, like you go in, like you said, like you hit a PR and there's way more in the tank than you originally thought.
Yeah. I was there like, let me just aim to hit the last week's number. And I was doing the set. We're at 4 and I was like, I think I've got a couple more here and beat it by 1. So there we go. But I was still thinking about your Bulgarian split squat PR, Ivan. You said you hit 45, right? For something.
Yeah, 45 for 8. But that was that was back in my like heyday when it came to like leg training. I was really prioritizing all that though. That was like, it's all I lived and breathed for. Now I'm a cardio bunny and calisthenics gymnastics junkie. The smaller the legs, the better, So it was a different animal back then. So it was a super high priority. And I would train Bulgarian split squats, twice a week. I'll squat twice a week and RDL twice a week. It was like an undulating sort of program, and I was hitting my legs a lot, and it just became really conditioned. But it was my best was 45s for 8s, so 90 kilos for 8 per leg. I actually tore my adductor doing 40 kilos. I just went in because I was in a rush. Didn't take the time to warm up. Didn't take the time to take the time to do 1 hour of mobility.
Did you forget your lacrosse ball that day?
Yeah. I don't think I could ever tear an adductor now, touch wood, but
Well, after seeing some of those adductor splits, I'd be shocked if you do.
Yeah. I'd be shocked too. But that was, I really heard it. I wasn't able to Bulgarian split squat or squat normally for a long time after that. But saying that, I did tear my adductor and I still went in the next day and I tried to do RDLs. I could still do RDLs. But then what happened was I started recording my lifts and I could tell that I was just shifting to one side so much. But I was just so stubborn, just no, keep training every day, have to do it. Don't make excuses. Yeah.
Funny thing is, when you get hurt, you always have that session where you're like, you get hurt and you get back home, you realize the pain, you're like, you know what, I need to do a session tomorrow to see what doesn't hurt.
Yeah. But you can always do something.
There's
always something you can do. Yeah.
That's why the biggest excuse when you hear people say, I can't do anything because my shoulders hurt. So I can't do anything. Can't eat well, can't train at all. Gotta stop everything because my shoulders hurt.
Can't go to work. Yeah, I know. Bane of my existence, that.
There's always something you can do.
Always.
Yeah. Just on that with the warm up. There's something that people often miss is when you're warming up and you're priming to do an exercise. Let's say you're doing the 45 kilo Bulgarian split squats. Yeah. What we often see is people who just literally skip all warm up sets and they go straight into it. It's a very sort of common thing where you're like, I ask people often like, because they're like to me, yeah, set 1 felt really hard, set 2 felt better, and then set 3 felt really good. And I was like, how did that happen? I was like, did you warm up? He goes, no, I just picked up the dumbbells and went for it. I was like, your nervous system is like, it's not even woken up yet. Yeah. And there's so much benefit to just priming a few sets to doing so. It's such an injury risk as well, but people often don't. Again, it's like one of those things, if you've never been injured, you're never going to know. So when I do RDLs now, I do like the bar 60, 80, 100, 120, 130, 140. Yeah. It's like, for me, I just need those sets to prime the system. But you hear when I train with some people, I'm like, oh, what do you want to start with? They're like, I'll just go up in plates. 1 plate, 2 plate, and then I'll start at 3 plates. I'm like,
Yeah, it's mindless. It's mindless. That's why. It's easy. It's easy to do that. Yeah, and then get hurt and go, oh, it was the exercise's fault. I got hurt. Because that takes time, and that takes that it's that precision. And I'm sure the 20 kilo, the 60 kilo, 100 kilo. I'm sure you're approaching that bar the same way, right?
Yeah.
You're getting your gaze right. You're taking the same amount of steps back. You're taking the same amount of breath. Everything's the same. And if you approach all your main lifts with that fashion and with that intensity, you're definitely going to reduce the risk of injury. And you're also going to increase the chances of just a much better performance. Especially with things like Bulgarian split squats, where there is a balance component too. You don't want to just go in and be like, you don't want to go in willy-nilly. Love that expression. And just try to wing it and think you're going to hit a PR. That's what I did and tore my adductor. So for things like Bulgarian split squats, being able to set yourself up, being able to find your spot on the wall or on the floor that you keep your eyes on the whole time. Okay. Another thing that I also see, one big giveaway when I'm looking at training videos, if someone's actually present with what they're doing, is what their head's doing. Is your head focused? Are you focusing on one thing, or is your head darting around everywhere, looking at other people, looking at you, or whatever it is? It's like you're not in the zone.
What about when you get the training videos and halfway through the set, they just start looking down the camera as if they're looking at you?
Yeah.
You do that. It's like, oh, I really went hard on this set. And then halfway through.
And it's always like a curious kind of look, right? You see
Yeah.
It makes you feel really uncomfortable just watching their form, doesn't it?
Especially if it's an RDL from the side.
Yes. While we're here, can we please address this? If you are doing your RDLs, you do not need to look to the side to check your form. Okay, that is what you can do with maybe like a light weight at the beginning of your set to make sure that you're lowering the bar at a good depth and your back is staying straight. After that, please, everyone listening to this, do not look to the side when doing your Romanian deadlifts. Thank you. That is all.
There's another one I saw the other day. Bent over dumbbell rows, and the angle of the camera was like to the side, but slightly behind as well. So like you're talking, let's say you're like 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And then just rep 4, you turn completely around to look at the camera. And I thought, your spine is about
impressive.
If I did that, my spine would tweak. Like I would hurt myself so badly.
Yeah. It's okay. We all make these mistakes.
Yeah, head positioning is a massive one for all lifts. And I think
it's huge.
I think just keeping it still, like keeping it neutral and still, is such an important part of like just general technique. You'd be surprised how much moving your head up and down affects your spine, affects your hips, affects how you activate your muscles, the tension, and all these sorts of things. And if you can just keep your head neutral in one point, fixed in a gaze, you'll be surprised just how much stronger you are, more stable you are, and how much more you get out of that lift.
Massively. That's a very big tip. And it's very common. Very common.
But I think even just beyond head as well, if you just, for all exercise, just understand what parts of your body are meant to be moving. And then when you watch a video back, you need to realize that nothing else should be. Because I think that would actually solve so many form issues for people. It's like, even say with a bicep curl, it's like, look at what should be moving there. If there are other parts of your body that's moving, then that's taking away from what you're trying to achieve with that exercise. And just taking away that extra movement, it might make the movement harder, but it's going to improve the quality of your sets. And that's across all the board for every exercise.
Mm-hmm.
What's some of the most common ones on that, would you say?
I think for isolation movements, like smaller body part stuff like a dumbbell curl or tricep extension, lateral raise, is just getting the rest of the body involved. And so if you're doing like a seated dumbbell curl, is having your torso moving backwards and forwards. With a lateral raise, again, it's just moving torso, maybe it's extending and bending your hips. So it's just bringing in other body parts to help you move the weight. So it might allow you to move more load from A to B, but there's other muscles that are then helping with that, and you're able to create momentum, which just takes tension away from the muscle that you're actually trying to train.
Yeah, and we don't want to confuse people here. That principle is very good for like isolation exercises. And again, but obviously there are going to be exercises where more than one joint is moving, which is fine, like a dumbbell row or whatever it is. But you need to pay attention to what joint is actually moving the most. If you're doing a dumbbell row and then your elbow is bending all the way up, what do you think is doing most of that rowing? It's going to be your bicep, right? But if you aim, let's say you're doing the biggest one I see is with single arm dumbbell rows. If you're rowing, I would suggest for most rows to, as you're pulling that elbow towards the hip, okay, think about finishing the lift with your elbow at 9 degrees. 9 degrees is probably going to be a really good measurement for pretty much your single arm dumbbell rows, your cable rows. Just trying to keep as minimal bend in that elbow as you can as you're doing the row is going to probably be a really easy thing to think about, just to make the exercise more effective. You know, I don't know is that something you see, Ed, as well? Just a lot of elbow bending.
I
shoulder rounding. Yeah.
And what you said about whatever joints are moving the most, the muscles around that are going to be what's working the most. And so even say with a split squat, if or a squat, say you get to the bottom of a squat or a leg press or any of these, and your hips are completely closed up, but your knees are very far away from being closed up, it's going to be the muscles around your hips. So say like glutes, adductors are going to be moving most of the load. If you get to the bottom of a squat and your knees are completely closed, but your hips aren't fully closed, then it's going to be more of the muscles that are in charge of extending your knees. So it's going to be more quad dominant movement. So it's just looking at whatever the movement is, and then seeing where's the biggest amount of movement coming from, because the muscles that are responsible for that movement are going to be what are getting the majority of the training effect.
Just on the dumbbell row, just to not create any confusion, I think when you said minimal elbow bend, what you're referring to is not rowing to your armpit, right?
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise, you get people trying to do straight arm rows, right?
So for people watching, it's like that, right? You know, so if you're rowing, instead of doing that, you're going to get your lats a lot more, right? Versus if you're doing that, like a lawnmower.
So for anyone listening, what Ivan's doing is he's putting his hand into his armpit as a bad way. And the good way is hand towards the hip, with the shoulder back on each variation.
But I also think if you are unsure of what exactly you're trying to target or what part of a body part you're trying to target, then either if you have a coach, talk to your coach. If not, then do some research on it, because understanding where you're meant to be feeling it, or what part of the body is, or even part of the muscle you're targeting more, is going to help you then perform it better as well. I've had some questions this week about upper arm path for a row, whether that's then hitting more lats or more traps. Again, with presses, how the incline then changes things. So if you have these movements and you're unsure of why you need to keep your arm close to your side on one row, keep it slightly further away on another, whatever it is, then if you have a coach, then ask them about it, because they'll be able to help you understand the rationale behind why, and that's only going to help you keep your form where we need it.
Or even just type in Google, like, what is a Romanian deadlift working? And you'll probably get the right answer. Or what is a tricep pushdown meant to work? Where should I feel these exercises? There's so much of the resources available. Make use of it, because when you know that, then you can connect to that muscle and just tune into the area. I don't know if you guys do this, but on like more isolation lifts, so where you don't need to have too much stability, there's a lot of benefits. Just sort of like not closing your eyes, but not really paying attention to like the external, and just kind of internalizing the whole process. Like every now and then, sometimes I'll close my eyes during chin-ups or rows or things like that, because you're trying to really connect to the muscle. You don't need to have them open. It's not like you won't do that on an RDL or a squat, because you probably fall down, right? But on things where you don't need that sort of high level of coordination.
What are your guys' thoughts on clients' ability to feel muscles? How important do you think it is at first?
I think personally, I think it's good to get into the mindset of knowing what each exercise is working. You know what I mean? So understanding, okay, what body part is this targeting? Where am I feeling it? I think getting that kinesthetic awareness and understanding what's doing what, I think is very important, especially for long-term development and just long-term love for training as well. It's a great feeling when you can connect with the muscle group, and it's a great feeling when you can actually feel what you're trying to do properly versus just feeling tired and ticking the box, you know? So yeah, I think it's important.
I think it's huge. I think it's the differentiator between someone going from like beginner to intermediate to advanced. It's like, how much can you actually connect to a muscle intentionally? I don't think beginner, intermediate, advanced has anything to do with how long you've been training for, or how strong you are, or how much you can move from A to B. I think I personally think it's how much you can intentionally activate and control a muscle group through a movement pattern.
Yeah, and your genetics will do the rest.
Oh, is that your genetics?
Your genetics will do the rest.
Yeah. Because when you can really connect to it, a muscle, you get so much more out of less. That's why I think beginners need more volume, purely because they don't get as much out of a set as someone who's more advanced does. They need more times to kind of attack that area. Whereas we could probably do one set and get a lot out of a movement pattern, because every rep is so much more engaging. Yeah.
I still think there's a case, obviously, as you get more advanced, I think you still do need more volume up to a point, you know.
Up to a point,
but yeah, for sure. But I get what you mean there. Yeah, you can do, once you can connect with the muscle group and once you can maximize the absolute shit out of it. Sorry for swearing. Then you probably don't need as many sets, right? But again,
I think that's where. Sorry, you carry on.
No, you go ahead. No, I was done. Just rambling.
I think that's where the waters get a bit muddied in terms of volume requirements and recommendations, because I think on paper a beginner only needs one set to stimulate change, because they're not used to training before, so one hard set is fine. But then you factor in execution and intensity, or like the effort that they're training at, and that completely muddies the water, I think, because like on paper I think a beginner only needs one set. As you get advanced, you may need more sets of that. However, if form isn't optimal, then that one set isn't being directed as well as we'd like. Also, if training effort isn't as good as it's going to be, then again, you're not going to get that same maximum stimulus. But that's where I think form and your effort progress over your training life as well. And if we did a chin up on our first day in the gym, we wouldn't have been able to connect to our lats the same way that we can now. And that doesn't mean it's doing nothing, but it just means that's just something that will progress over time. So if you are new to the gym and you're doing, say, a chin up, and you're not just feeling really directing everything into your lats, don't need to worry that it's not doing anything. As long as the movement's looking right, that's something that will then also develop over time.
I think that's big. I think the fact that it should look externally right first, and then the internal come more and more, because a lot of people can't connect. Like, for example, the chin up. I remember back in the day, could crank out loads of chin ups really easily. Now I could probably do less chin ups, but each one gives me a lot more. I don't know if you guys find that. I find it hard to do fast chin ups now. Do you get the same thing?
Yeah.
Like, you know, back in the day, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, how many chin-ups can you do? You just could crank away, right? Whereas now it's like you're trying to, maybe because from more of a bodybuilding perspective, but now each one I'm trying to like squeeze my lats and like activate the muscle.
Yeah, I love these people who think they can do like 20 chin-ups, and you see it. It's like, okay, number one, you're not even going into like a dead hang. You're just literally like here. You know, it's like it's just completely different. But again, it all depends on what your definition of a chin-up is, and this and that, and what you're doing it for, and like it can get so muddy. We can now be on the whole podcast on chin-ups. But yeah, I know what you mean with regards to just being able to get more out of a chin-up now than what you did prior, even though you technically could do more reps back then, you know? So one set when you were a beginner is not going to be as effective as one set that you can do now.
Like if you did a sternum chin-up, like lean away sternum chin-up with tempo, you might be lucky to get 3 or even 1. You feel your whole back just cramping, right?
Oh, it feels like someone's just tearing it apart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As you lower it
so
down,
humbling doing that. Like, if anyone listening, what you're doing is you grab the bar, and instead of just like sort of just doing the regular vertical chin up, you're like almost like leaning back and trying to pull your chest to it, your sternum to the bar. Firstly, you probably won't be able to get to your sternum to the bar. Actually getting it to the bar I think that's dependent on your. I don't know if it's dependent on your mechanics or because there's only so far you can actually go up, right?
Rib cage size and like arm length and things.
But the intention is to go as high as you can with your sternum like in line with the bar.
I did for a little bit. I think they were called lean away pull-ups. I know, like Poliquin used to be like you basically do a normal pull-up.
Garundas.
You just push your arms away, and it's almost like for the concentric you do a pull-up, and then the eccentric you do like
it's fantastic.
Like a straight arm like raise over. I was just like basically controlling a bit, and then it was like a controlled fall really. But oh my god, my lats were in pieces for I'd done for well over a week of those. Like I've never felt anything like that.
That's incredible.
I also think though, when it comes to feeling muscles, some exercises you will just feel more than others. And so like, say you're doing like a big movement, so like maybe an RDL or a leg press or a squat, where there's massive amount of tension just through your body because you're having to brace and things. You may not feel it as directed as say you do a dumbbell curl. You should just feel everything say then into your bicep. As I say, sometimes on a leg press, I'll feel like I know I'm working, but sometimes it's not until after the set that I'll really be able to feel like, oh, my quads are done after that. But in the set, I'm sometimes just feel like an overall tension, and I know my legs are working, I know my quads are working, I know my glutes are working, but you're not going to get that same directed sensation in the work muscle that you might do in an isolation movement, which I think is worth noting as well. I think
it's big in an RDL. Like, it's really common in an RDL because people always say like, oh, I feel it a lot more when I go light. Should I just go light? I say no, I feel it more when I go like 60 kilos because all you're thinking about is your hamstring. But when you're doing, let's say 140 kilos or whatever your working weight is, you're now having to brace everything to another level. So it's amplified tension across the board. And you just got to trust that so long as it looks right externally, the right things are happening. And you'll normally know the next morning when you brush your teeth and your hamstrings are torn to pieces. It's probably the only exercise that I think, no matter how many times you do it, you're always going to be sore the next day.
It's so systemically fatiguing. It so just destroys you, so much goes on,
But it's not as systemically fatiguing as a deadlift though. Like when you do a deadlift, you just feel like you can't get out of bed.
That's only because of the dead stop notion of it, When you compare like a deadlift and RDL, like an RDL is far superior from like not far superior, but I would say superior from like a hamstring glute hypertrophy standpoint. You know what I mean? And you don't get that same fatigue, which is also a huge bonus, right?
Yeah. From a hypertrophy point of view, yeah. The deadlift isn't actually always the best move for a hypertrophy point of view.
No.
Especially the conventional style. Like conventionally, I think it's quite a poor exercise for hypertrophy.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like with all exercises, it's just a lot of it is based on just anthropometry and also just the arbitrary radius of the plates you're using. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's what it's just because those lifts are so common, right? People always like, what do you deadlift? What do you do this? What do you do that? But it's like, well, this is very different for the deadlift is a very different exercise for very different, like, for different people with different structures. You know what I mean? It's quite funny that someone just invented this exercise with some this arbitrary plate distance. I still don't know where that came from, you know. And I think that is, when you really look at just exercises like that in general, it's actually very interesting just to see how do they come up with these sort of standards, you know?
Yeah. And it's these beliefs that we all have ingrained, and then you actually look at them, you're like, there's nothing. So I think just to explain that more, what Ivan's saying is the height of the bar in a deadlift is just determined by just the size of the plate that you've put on the end of it. And that's just determines the starting position for every human, no matter how tall you are or short you are. And so if they had made the plates a bit bigger, that's what we would just know as a deadlift. If it was smaller, that's what we would know. And so it's funny that in, I guess, gym culture or whatever it is, that whether you're 6'5" or you're 4'8", a deadlift still has to start exactly the same place off the floor. And I guess that comes into just the whole process of set ranges of motion that you know most people believe need to occur.
What I need to do with my RDLs, because I got so much depth, I have to make sure that the previous gym I had, it was on a platform, and there was the sides around the platform was lower, so it's perfect. So it actually allowed me to go lower. So when I joined this new gym in Feb, all the Alico plates, when I kept hitting the ground on every single rep, so it felt like a bounce and a shudder. Then I found that the plates that they use on a leg press have a smaller diameter. They're 20 kilos, but they're smaller. Okay. So now I have to go all the way to the I grab all the plates from the leg press area and bring them to it, and it allows me to go full depth without standing on a platform. So just a good example there.
There's like another one, you know, like T-bar rows, when people just use loads of 10s, because if you use like a 20 at the bottom, it's just like you have to be so high up, don't you?
Yeah.
It's an ego thing you got to check in, though, if you want making things harder like that. It's good, though. You should always try and look at how you can make the exercise harder.
Yeah. Not just add more weight for the sake of it.
Yeah. I used to be so obsessed with those like numbers with regards to that deadlift. I used to have a massive ego around. I want to hit that 500-pound deadlift. I want to like these people are hitting 450. I need to get to that. And then I got hurt. So that stopped all of that. But it becomes quite I feel it's less so now. But I don't know if it's just because I was obsessed with the powerlifting worlds before. Like I was obsessed with all those circles.
I think it's who you mix with, because I was for me there was a gym where it was the squat, and it was almost like your status in the gym was almost like dictated by like everyone knew each other's PBs. Like I was a trainer there, you know all the trainers' PBs, but you also knew all the members' ones, like who was getting up. And it was a really good community because everyone knew each other really well, but it was almost just like there was a bit of a pecking order in terms of like what now I just go to a random gym now. I wouldn't know anyone's PB in that gym or anything like that, and so I think it may be what circles you're mixing in, for sure.
The environment. Yeah. I mean, Ivan, you probably know everyone at your gym, like, who's got an iron cross, who's halfway there.
None of them. No, but the thing is with my gym though, because it's so everyone has their own strengths, right? So obviously everyone knows me as like the mobility, flexibility sort of person, but there are other people there who are like super strong. You know what I mean? Like amazing strength, but they don't have mobility. So because of the wide variance of just skills and just what people want to chase, there's no like hierarchy. It's just that everyone is doing their own thing. Everyone's on their own like little race. Everyone's on their own little, because everyone's got different goals. You know what I mean? Everyone's got different things they want to chase. And that again, a lot of those exercises and movements are also based on your lever lengths and like age. You know, there are 16, 17-year-old kids there doing like full planches, only because they're like 60 kilos and tiny. You know what I mean? But again, like it's just insane, right? You see that, you're like, that is crazy to see kids do this. It's great to see. They get it in like a year, you know? But everyone there is just doing their own thing. There are people who do strength training. There are people who do just mobility, flexibility. There are people who just do like ring stuff. So it's a great environment. It's a fantastic environment when you just see everyone working towards their own goals. And there doesn't seem to be like ego there, in my opinion.
Did you ever follow Christopher Summers' work?
Yeah, Gymnastics Bodies.
Yeah. So I bought his book about 10 years ago, and I started working through some of the progressions. And you know, they're like kids in the book doing all these crazy things, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, because I was into that, I was doing like frog stands and all these. I was trying to get my front lever, And then when you start researching these things, all you see is people doing these things, and you're like, surely it's the commonality. Like everyone's doing front levers and planches.
It's not.
Reality is, it's like the 1%. Not even the 1%. It's like the 1% of the 1% who've done it.
Yeah. And you got to realize those kids, right? Though they are perfectly built for those things at that age, and they also have no fear. So a big reason to why gymnasts develop the way they do is because their whole childhood is them being spotted through like every movement. You know what I mean? Like on the ring, spotted, the lever, spotted, and as they're in their position, the coach will literally just like correct their form and just hold them there. You know, and then they develop the strength and tension in those positions. So they've always got someone there helping them. And it's amazing. That's why you see these amazing things happen on like the Olympic stage. But it's very rare that you'll see people who came from like absolutely nothing and had to train on their own to get similar skills. You know, that's why there are kids, 10 years old, potentially doing iron crosses. And it's still like a B-level skill. And when you look at gymnastic skills, if it's a B-level skill, you got A, B, C, D, E, and F, just for like reference. So can you imagine how
what's an iron cross?
A B?
What's above an iron cross?
Well, so C, D, E is all after that?
And F. Yeah.
Oh, B is low level.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought
so
A was...
A is just like, pretty easy. B, still pretty standard. You should be able to do those things. C, D starts to get harder.
Give an example of an F.
I'm not too sure like the actual name. So it would be like more combinations. It would be like someone pulling from like a dead hang into an iron cross, stuff like that. So it's
and then probably down there as well, right?
Yeah. Full range pull up, straight on pull up, butterfly pull. That's harder than an iron cross. Maltese, all these. It's just insane. It's insane.
A Maltese is nuts.
Yeah, I know. But then you look deeper into that as well, and they are literally just ring specialists, these people. Like as you get more and more elite, you become more and more specialized. So if you're like a rings just god, all you do is rings, and you make sure your legs stay tiny. You make sure that you stay small, like through your lower body. It's insane. And all they focus on is their ring routines. They don't have to do any of the other stuff, which is really interesting. And that's how they become just absolute beasts and monsters. It's crazy, That's your life,
Yeah. So basically, you're an A minus. Are you A minus then?
I am not even on the scorecard.
I think the fear thing is interesting because yesterday I was just, I was filming these rehab videos for you, and I was like, let me just see. I was doing the scat push-ups. When you're straight armed, you shrug your shoulders. And I thought, let me see if I can do a one-arm push-up on my right arm, my dodgy arm. And I was just holding it there, and I was like, I don't want to even bend it because I'm scared I'm gonna hurt myself.
Yep. It's that fear. Yeah, huge. And that's you eliminate that fear so much when you're a kid because you have no fear. You have nothing to be scared of. You're just like, cool, my coach does that, I do that. That's cool. And you lose that fear. That's why they can do all these crazy skills and just have no inhibition for a long time. Yeah.
It's like when I do RDLs, because I've hurt my discs in the past, even though I don't get pain during RDLs, the number one thing that goes in my mind before any set is like, am I going to hurt my back? And it stops me from progressing as much as I wanted to because I'm always like, I got to milk it so much more than normal just because of previous back things.
Yeah. And a lot of us have those things. That's how injuries linger around for a long time. Even if the tissue's completely healed up, your brain will still send like little warning signals here and there. And it's also why those old injuries seem to flare up during high periods of high stress, psychological stress as well. You relate that to that. It's interesting. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
What's the link there? How does that work?
Well, it's the whole like biopsychosocial model. You know what I mean? It's linking physiology with psychology. Trying to separate the two is just stupid. It's silly. You know what I mean? And there was a long time ago. I don't know. I think there are still proponents still pushing it that any injury is just physical. That's it. You know what I mean? Once the tissue is healed, you're all good. But there have been numerous scans done on people that have like completely torn rotator cuffs, right? Who are asymptomatic. Then there are people who have nothing shows up on a scan, nothing shows up on MRI or whatever, and they complain of like crazy pain all the time. There's no tissue there to sort of tell them that there's pain, but they still feel that pain, So like pain is so much more than just like a physical injury, and yeah, like the whole biopsychosocial model, for anyone that's interested, is a very interesting rabbit hole to get into, and just how everything can impact how you perform on a day or how you feel with regards to injuries. Old injuries come back during periods of high stress, who you're around, doing things like that where it's like, am I going to hurt my back doing an RDL? I remember when I also hurt my back, this was a long time ago, even just the thought of going into a squat session while I'm driving my car to the gym, I would get like cramping in my lower back,
Yeah, you start thinking about it, right?
Yeah. You start thinking about it, your brain starts to already feel like instill a little bit of fear. It's trying to protect you. Doesn't want you to do that again.
That's what I've got in my shoulder, I think, now. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why I sort of suggested doing those like heavy isometrics to tell your brain, hey, it's okay. We can push. You're fine. You're strong. Versus just always doing like the rotator cuff stuff. I sent you the voice note. You'll be able.
It's because what was happening was I was thinking, it was all of a sudden I was like, actually, I'm not actually in pain day to day. I'm only in pain when I'm around the dumbbells, like I'm around those exercises. Then I'm like, I'm thinking about this pain. Yeah. But when I'm day to day, like I used to get the point. It was to the point where like when I'm going off to turn my alarm and across the arm that would hurt, or picking up something from the top of the shelf that would hurt, driving would hurt. Then I was like, all of that stuff is gone. It's only when I think about it or when I'm actually doing an exercise that's causing me pain. That's when I was like, surely something's not going on.
Also, if there's something else that's causing more pain, that your body will always prioritize. Like it'll be like a hierarchy. And I don't know if you guys ever watched House. Did you ever watch House?
No, I haven't seen that.
So anyway, like he's the whole series has had like a really, really bad leg. And there was this one episode where he was getting like serious pain in his leg. So he started cutting up his arm. So to take the mind off the pain in the leg, so that now the mind is focused on the pain in the arm. And he could then walk around normally for a bit. So the human body's amazing.
I had someone the other day. So, you said that things link around stress and psychological and physiological. So I guess all my stress manifests in my skin. So I get really dry skin when I'm going through periods of high stress. And I had this like scalp infection recently where it got so dry that I was like scratching it and then it got infected. And I was speaking to a dermatologist and he goes, firstly, are you under periods of stress? It's like, it's been quite stressful, yeah. But and he was like,
are you a psychic?
So I get this recurring. The last time I had this thing was actually when I was holding on to being shredded. Like, last year I held on to being shredded for like 7-8 weeks, and like week 6-8, I think my skin just started peeling away and all this sort of stuff. It was just under stress. And I was like, he was like, oh, you had this last year, didn't you? I was like, yeah. He's like, you're obviously prone to, he's like, you probably got like psoriasis. And as a kid, I've always had eczema. He's like, you got shoulder pain as well? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what? He's like, have you had lower back pain?
Did you not know about shoulder pain before?
No. He's like, have you had lower back pain in the past? I'm like, yeah. He's like, why'd you ask? He's like, well, they're usually closely linked. Dry skin, extreme dry skin that can stay over chronic periods of time, and those sorts of pain. He's like, you need to sort it out because you're probably going to be at risk for like arthritis in the future. I was like, oh, that's great to hear. Yeah. But that was really interesting. I just thought like the connections there. I don't know if there's any to it, but
Well, there is now that you're speaking about arthritis and whatnot. Like this is another rabbit hole, but there's now. I think they've just discovered like a new hormone that our bones secrete during stress. It's called like osteocalcin. So I'm yet to go down the rabbit hole yet, but it sort of just came up recently. But there does seem to be a link with how stress can impact bone degradation as well. So or your body will like donate calcium if it needs to, it will donate things from your bone to keep you going during stress, and it's also super common in when females get REDS, a relative energy deficiency in sport, when people just under eating or trying to stay too shredded for too long, those sort of things, your body will start sacrificing bone to get the job done on certain things, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I'll just remind me when you said my arthritis and stress and that sort of stuff. So it's interesting though, but that's what I got on that. I haven't dove deep on it yet, but
what's interesting there is, we talk about the ability to channel things and channel like stresses and just keep going.
Yeah.
And surely that's not a healthy thing, right? But it's probably it's an advantage in the short term, but in the long term, surely you can't be doing a squat, right?
Yeah, I'm destroying my bones. My whole skeleton is just destroyed. Oh, yeah.
But I think the whole injury being linked to stress and things, like, it reminded me, I went on a course a few years ago with Eugene Teo, and I remember him talking about having previous clients who had injuries linked to traumatic experiences in their life. Yeah. And so they lost their father, say, they started getting a bad shoulder. And they, like you were saying, Ivan, had loads of work on it, but there was nothing, no one could find any actual physical issues with that. And then once they actually dealt with the emotional issues and the baggage around losing their father, the shoulder pain actually was dealt with.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
I mean, that link, I think, is beyond fully what anyone currently kind of understands about the human body. But there's, you know, like you said, there's clearly more to it than just purely a physical damage.
I've definitely heard of links around psychology and like knee pain and shoulder pain, all these sorts of things, and how it's linked to certain things in your life, like I don't know, like family related, men, women, etc.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the thing with the physical manifestation. Like I had a clear example of this. I don't know how that rash. I don't know if I told you about that rash I had on my arm for like it was good, like 4 to 6 weeks. I had a rash on my left arm, and like I tried everything. I tried steroid creams, the lot, and it was all linked to this lingering problem I hadn't sorted out. As soon as I dealt with that lingering issue, the next day disappeared. It was the most bizarre thing. Like I literally woke up and I was like, "Where's it gone?" It just cleared up overnight. And this was like a full like a rash, like probably like a good like sort of 5-6 inches long. It wasn't like a small sort of tidbit.
And the issue was like an issue just with a lifestyle thing, or like a lifestyle stress.
Yeah,
lifestyle stress.
It wasn't a skin thing. Yeah,
it was a business.
You didn't find in grapefruit juice. Yeah. And just so everyone's clear, like we're not saying that every injury is a psychological issue. Like there's definitely times where, you know, if you had a car accident, then that's going to be pretty serious. And
also bad technique.
Yeah, if you jump straight on the 40-kilo Bulgarian split squat, doctors probably not. Emotional issue.
I think these is like related to like chronic pain potentially, or chronic sort of issues where you've tried a lot of things.
You know, one of the worst things about that as well is you can then get people who start identifying. Yeah. It becomes a part of their identity. Like, oh, I'm the guy with the bad back, or like, Bob, he's the guy with the bad knees. It's like it becomes a part of them. And once, as we know, with all different identity changes, whether it's you're the guy who has extra portions at dinner or the guy who drinks 10 pints the weekend, like if you're identified as the guy with the bad shoulder, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Like your shoulder's going to keep hurting.
There's a period in my life, but I actually had that thing around my back. I was like, I'm the guy with the bad back. And people used to ask me, you want to train legs? Yeah, but I'm going to have to do back-friendly workouts. So it was not one of those ones, right?
Yeah. You want people to know you train hard because your back's sore.
Yeah. And then we used to call other people, because you go to these, especially in the hardcore gyms, right? If you go into like hardcore gyms, it's like a badge of honor who's got more injuries than the other person, right? And there's one guy, he was going around, and you could just hear that guy in the gym, right? And he's just telling everyone, "Oh yeah, slipped 3 discs here, tore my shoulder, knee broke, all this sort of stuff." And he's never actually training in the gym, just walking around telling everyone about his injuries. And we used to just call him the injury guy. Like we used to say, "It's the injury guy, come in." But I think there's a massive thing around identification of like, especially with like, you know, people who, you know, we might know people who have bad backs, and they're just constantly bringing everyone else around them down because they got bad backs, and it just becomes a drain on everyone else around them, right? Because of that person's identity around their back.
You like the attention you get when you're hurt. Oh, you okay? Can I get you something? You know, oh, you're special. You know, people like that, and it's true. Like people can get addicted to that, right? They can get comfortable with people. Maybe for some people, when they're hurt, that's the only time they get attention. Or that's the only time they feel like they get attention, right? So.
Well, like we've said, you know, there's always ways to work around stuff. So if you are Bob with the bad shoulder, like there's no reason you can't be training legs hard or whatever it is.
Yeah. You can't be Ed with the good elbow.
Yeah, that was an interesting little rabbit hole there around injuries. There's quite a few different things there, isn't it? Like,
I like these podcasts for that reason.
This came on the podcast. Attempted to talk about something else.
Yeah.
Don't even know how we went under this one. And just on that, while we're there on this topic, we should probably talk about training videos. And how it's good to get, when you're doing training videos, when you're taking them, is take them from the right angle that you can see all the moving parts of what might be causing the issue. When you see like a bent over row from the front, it doesn't really tell you what's going on their back, right? Like, because most issues around bent over rows, for example, are like where the elbow is, how the straight, is their back straight? You got to actually see what's going on. I think that's important. The reason why I thought of it is because I was sending you those videos yesterday. Firstly, don't use the excuse of like, I can't film a video.
You don't need a camera crew.
You don't need a camera crew. Just put it up against something. But also you need to like even if you're just doing the videos for yourself, which there's a lot of value in that as well. Mm-hmm. It's just to make sure you're doing it so you can actually see what's going on, as opposed to these obscure angles, which aren't really going to tell you anything.
Yeah. My favorite's the dumbbell chest press or dumbbell bench press, where it's angled basically just up from their feet. So you just get like 90% crotch, and then you just, at the very top of the rack, you just see the dumbbells And then, like you said, even if you're not sending them across to, a coach, or even if you are, regardless if you're sending them on to anyone else, watch them yourself as well, because that's going to be part of helping you understand what it's actually looking like, and then you can compare it to other videos of people with good form, and then you can see where the discrepancies are.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And before you send the videos over, actually try to figure out like, what do you think you did wrong there? Why do you think you didn't feel a certain exercise? And then try to dissect it yourself, and then send it to your coach, and then get a discussion going. And that's a really, really good way for you to actually learn and develop, versus just being like, here are my videos, please see attached. It's just like, describe the videos. Ask yourself, why didn't this feel better? Did you feel this in the target muscle? Why or why not? Get deeper on it.
And then also, when you are just reviewing them, you can just crop them, so we don't need the 30 minutes of you getting set up before and after each set as well. Would be another top tip I'd have.
And very, very good for uploading speed, doing that.
Yeah.
There's one time, when we were doing home workouts, I was doing the banded hack squats with the foam roller and the weighted vest and all the different entrapments I was using. So when I was filming it to send to my coach at the time, I remember so I'd set the camera up, then I have to get myself psyched up, then I have to put these bands on, then the foam roller on, then do the actual set, then finish it, then crawl over. It was like a 3.5 minute video. And I remember when I was thinking, I was going to send it, I was like, oh, actually, I can't send this. I need to crop it, because I know how painful that is.
Trim what he needs. Yeah, trim what he needs. Yeah.
Because if you do these sets properly, there's going to be a lot of period before you actually start. You don't just hit record. You have to get yourself in the mindset.
Yeah, and you end up kind of getting these routines. I know you've got your one for the RDL, of just getting your body in the right place, and then however many amount of breaths or whatever it is. But it's then just flicking that switch mentally as well, isn't it?
Yeah, can't wait to RDL today.
Yeah, bad.
Don't you get so much freedom when you RDL? There's just something about it, isn't it? It's a nice stretch.
I think it's any exercise you just connect with like that, or you know what I mean. It can be an RDL, it can be iron cross, it can be whatever, right?
It's when you have the whole routine around it. It's like each set takes about 5 minutes.
But you also, because you place so much value on those sets.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, these sets or whatever it is, these make or break the session. Like, say today you flop on RDL, but then your last couple of exercises you do all right on. You'd probably go home a bit pissed off, won't you? It's those sets that are, you just have to make count.
It's why I think so I haven't floor pressed this for a long time, and I used to have a routine around that as well. I'll put the dumbbells on my lap, then I'll put my head into the dumbbells, and I'd get myself into a place. I put my hood up. It's all I'm completely entranced into it, and then I'd go into it. So I missed that for sure. Just have to make it up instead of landmine presses instead. But it's not quite the same, is it?
No.
But think of the long-term benefits though for your shoulder. That's what I would say.
Yeah, don't be the shoulder guy in a year's time.
Exactly.
Oh, your shoulder. I'm still doing the landmines because of my shoulder.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, just doing these because of the shoulder.
You know, sometimes sometimes when you do the landmark press, I do think like, what if someone else? Why am I doing a landmark press? Like, all I do is because someone said to me, you know, I was doing the chest machine, right, and I was doing only one arm at a time, and one side had like 30 kilos on it, one side had like 10, and I was doing it because I was just trying to train what I could. It was at this point, it was just so weak. And I was super saying with a guy, like he was jumping in between me. And then he goes, he's quite a big dude and he had a decent amount of muscle. And then after like 2 sets, he goes to me, what's the theory behind, what's the theory behind one side being so heavy and one side being so light? I'm like, just, torn a labrum. So just coming back from recovery. I had to say like torn a labrum just to sound a bit harder, but
yeah.
This new undulating system I got where I train like one side of the body and then
he was just like, oh, okay, and then putting all his weight on.
Yeah, my chakras on the left just a little bit weaker than my right, so just trying to bring them up. Yeah.
I'm working more outer pec on this side, whereas I'm more inner pec on.
Yeah, well, my scan said that my left pec has more type 1 fibers. So I'm just trying to get more reps out, but my right one for some reason has more type 2. Weird, you know. So yeah, about type 1 and type 2 fibers. No.
Yeah, I was going to say you might want to say what they are.
No.
I think a good thing to point on this though is balances or imbalances between sides.
Yeah.
Because I think it's something that comes up often a lot. Because I think especially if you do say a dumbbell press, and it's likely one side is going to be slightly stronger than the other, but it's nothing to panic about unless it's a massive difference. You know, we don't live totally equal lives. I know in the gym when we pick up dumbbells, they'll both be 20 kilos in each hand or whatever it is. But day to day, you're going to be doing more things with one side or the other. When you open a door, you don't do 50% of your door opens with one arm and 50% with the other or whatever it is. So we're all going to have slight imbalances across our body. And it's not something to fear or you have to correct to get it 100%.
Exactly.
If there's a huge discrepancy, then it may be something to look at. But for most of the time, it's just understanding that it's going to occur.
Have you guys gone through a phase? Have you guys gone through a phase of trying to correct it?
Always.
Yeah.
Of course.
So you went through a phase of like opening the door with your left more, brushing your teeth, learning how to brush your teeth with the left.
It was mine was more like thinking that the asymmetry will help fix my pain. And that's one thing I want to tell people right now. Like, just because you're asymmetrical doesn't mean that you're going to be out of pain if you try to aim for symmetry. Aiming for symmetry is actually impossible for humans. We have heavier livers on one side. We have slight rotation in our hip. Like, we have just all these minute. The way that we are structured and built is asymmetrical. You know what I mean? Like, so trying to chase this thing that you think is like symmetrical is ludicrous. And people who are trying to tell you that, and people who are telling you that and thinking that they can help you correct that, are trying to take your money and a shams, and get out of that get away from that person as fast as you possibly can, because they're telling you lies, because they want you just to keep coming into their little practice. So being symmetrical is not going to get you out of pain. Trying to chase perfect posture all 100% of the time is also not going to get you out of pain. Dealing with the issues is going to get you out of pain. That's what's going to get you out of pain. So yeah, just the whole asymmetry thing. And one quick note, sorry, Ed, just one quick note. If Jay Cutler, one of the best bodybuilders of all time, won the Mr. Olympia with one arm bigger than the other, you're fine.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've got scoliosis, so my spine's not straight. And so if you know that the spine that I guess on like the optimum human or the perfect human drawing or whatever is going to be straight down the middle or whatever. If my spine isn't straight, there's no way everything is going to be exactly balanced on both sides. But you know, I have no back pain day to day, or you know, I've had back pain once, and I was because just injured it. But no, that was nothing to do with having scoliosis or having some slight imbalance.
Yep. Perfect example. Yep.
Perfect. I think that's a wrap for today. Catch everyone next week.
We're done. Yeah.